Hello and welcome to the February edition of the new contributor orientation meeting. Before we start off, we have a few housekeeping items. Firstly, this meeting is recorded and will be published to YouTube. All meetings in the Kubernetes community abide by a code of conduct, which you can find at the link on the bottom of the slide. It basically sums up to please be respectful of the speakers and your fellow attendees and in generally be excellent to each other. Please use the chat to ask questions and have discussions throughout this call. There will be a Q&A section at the end where we encourage you to ask questions verbally if you would like to. A copy of the slides is available on GitHub and the link is also in the meeting invite. We will post the link to the GitHub later in the chat as well. The links in the decks are clickable. They are not clickable in GitHub, but when you download them, they should be clickable. All right. The purpose of this meeting is to orient you in the Kubernetes community. That gives you a sense of how the community works, what is your part, and what it could be within the community. We will start off with a presentation to convey information about the community. Then we will have a Q&A where you're welcome to ask any questions you would like to ask. Hearing also questions that you ask can benefit anyone watching the recording. So please do ask questions verbally during this time if you're comfortable. Otherwise, I will read them out if you write them. Short introduction to me. Hi, I am Mario. I'm currently one of the SIG Contrib co-chairs. I'm also for the comp sub project a tech lead and a CNCF ambassador. Now let's dive into this. The Kubernetes community is a very, very big group of people who work together to create and maintain the Kubernetes project. Some numbers to give you a sense of just how big the Kubernetes community is. We track data about our contributions via GitHub and a few other contributing tools, and we collect them in a tool called DevStats. That's basically a big database of information about Kubernetes contributions, and you're welcome to explore this. These stats were pulled out in November 2024. At this time, we had over 92,000 contributors. We've made over 4.4 million contributions, and all of these contributions have been reviewed by only 7,500 reviewers. We'll talk more about what contributions might mean and who a reviewer might be a little later in this presentation. Here is another visualization of how large our community is and how fast it's grown. This graph is from 2023 of the Kubernetes project report and shows you how we've grown for Kubernetes from the beginnings in 2014 to today. We grew from 0 to over 80K contributions in our first 10 years. Now, before we dive deeper into the community, some of you might be unfamiliar with what Kubernetes is and what it does. Kubernetes is first and foremost an open source container orchestration tool. Open source means that it's made by people around the world, some of whom are paid to work on it, but many of whom are volunteers. And the code of the Kubernetes software is publicly available under an open source license. It describes exactly who, when, and how the software and its source code can be used. And the cool thing that Kubernetes does is orchestrate containers. So let's go over what this means. Businesses have many applications they need to run. For example, they may have a payroll application, logistics application, or a company website. These applications need to run somewhere, so businesses also have a lot of computers to run those applications on. Kubernetes enables business to say, hey, Kubernetes, here's the computers I have, and here's the app I need to run. You can describe various levels of detail about how that application needs to run or the hardware it might need, and Kubernetes will run it on that machine for you. It also provides some handy functionality for managing the application while it's running. For example, it can provide some help for the process of updating the application to a new version. Exactly how it does all this magic is what Kubernetes contributors work to maintain and improve every single day. Let's learn about how contributors build Kubernetes by exploring our community structure. Kubernetes is an open source project within this Cloud Native Computing Foundation. The CNCF is a non-profit organization with the stated mission to make cloud native ubiquitous. To that end, they support many open source projects that enable companies to run applications in the cloud. The CNCF provides a variety of guidance and support to these projects, including legal support, code of conduct, help with logos and copyright, and so on. So the pyramid below the CNCF represents the structure of the Kubernetes community. At the top interface, the most is the CNCF, presiding over the various topics that affect the entire community and projects. In our case, we have the steering committee at the top, which basically is a body of 7 members who are elected by the Kubernetes org members. We will go over what an org member is shortly. With a project so large, there are many different concepts within the project that needs unique skills and knowledge. For example, the way Kubernetes knows where workloads are run, what they do is one kind of area of expertise. Meanwhile, the challenge of writing and maintaining Kubernetes docs needs folks with different expertise. People who work on specific areas of the project gather together what they call are together in what they call special interest groups, or SIGs. These break up the work of building and maintaining the Kubernetes project into more sensible chunks. Sometimes, however, these are big areas still that need attention, that are both very significant and cut across SIGs. Sometimes these are split out in what is called working groups. A working group is generally temporary, created to address a specific issue and then meant to disappear as a focus group once that topic is sufficiently addressed by ongoing SIG work. For example, working group LTS. A defining characteristic of working groups is that they generally don't own any code or features, at least not in the long term. Working groups work either or will be owned by a SIG in the future by the time the working group dissolves, unless that is a working group becomes a SIG. This is also a possibility. But even the work of one SIG can be quite broad in scope. There can be hundreds of contributors to a single SIG. So SIGs further break down in their own sub-projects. Currently, we have 24 special interest groups, 7 working groups, and 3 committees in the Kubernetes community. We can further group those SIGs and working groups by their scope. Some groups operate on a project level, and all other work in the project depends basically on them. Some groups work on a horizontal level, meaning that they have technical focus that is both deep and broad and own core functionality from a project architecture perspective. Vertical groups have deep and specific technical focus that depends on the work of horizontal groups. And of course, both horizontal and vertical groups depend on the work of project groups. How does this look like in reality? So here's a diagram of the 6 and working groups currently active in the Kubernetes project. To call out just a few, SIG release and docs are groups who work you might be familiar with, and they operate as project level groups. Though you may not have known it, you have probably encountered the work of SIG API machinery and SIG auth before, and we consider those groups to be horizontal groups. And in the vertical groups, you can also find a lot of familiar concepts like auto-scaling, scheduling, networking, and node. You might want to refer back to this diagram later as you're exploring groups to contribute to. Feel free to ask questions about these during the Q&A or in chat now. But before we are going to move along without our talk. Now we've learned the basics on how the community is structured. Let's start exploring where you fit into all of this. So firstly, let's briefly explore why you might want to contribute. There are many reasons people contribute to the Kubernetes community. For some, their job requires contributing. There are also contributors who work with the community on a purely volunteer base. There are also those who are somewhere in the middle, where their work needs them to contribute sometimes, but they also do extra work for the community outside of their job. So why do so many people contribute without getting paid? They may want to grow a specific skill for their resume, or maybe they want to meet people working in the industry. Maybe they just think the technology is cool and they want to dive deep and help build it. Or sometimes folks just like being part of a community of people and working towards similar goals. You should think carefully about why you want to contribute. As you get more and more engaged with the community, you will get more out of it, and you can clearly tell people what you want. If you know who you are and what you want and what you can do, they can easily help you to find work, opportunities, and connections that will benefit you the most. Regardlessly of why you're interested in contributing, you're probably wondering what it means to be a contributor. The answer to this question of what it means to be a contributor, let's first explore what might count as a contribution. The truth is that any work you do to support the Kubernetes project is a welcome and valued contribution to the community. That sounds broad and vague, but it's important. There's a lot of work contributors do behind the scenes to make this project run. And it's certainly not all writing code and making GitHub pull requests. That said, it can certainly help to have some examples. Here are a few of what you might think is a good contribution. For example, did you start off by posting a hello message in hashtag Kubernetes new contributors channel in the Kubernetes Slack? That's a contribution. Have you commented on an issue or a proposal for a new feature to share your thoughts and opinions? That's also a contribution. Even watching or attending this meeting right now is a contribution. As the community, we try to our best to acknowledge and appreciate contributions in the community in so many forms. But if so many vague and varied things can be counted as a contribution, then what does it mean to be a contributor? We have various levels of being a contributor. You might remember our slide earlier where we mentioned contributors and reviewers. This slide dives into more detail of what those terms mean. Starting at the bottom, anyone can be a contributor. If you do any of the things mentioned on the previous slide and more, you already are a contributor. If you're contributing to the community in a way, then you might be what it's called a non-member contributor. This means that you pop into the community and contribute likely in small disconnected ways. But if you want to get really involved with the community, you want to basically go for org membership. An org member refers to a member of the Kubernetes organization on GitHub. Being an org member gives you higher privileges to interact with the tools the contributors use to do their work, like our Prowbot in GitHub, which helps us apply labels and configure issues using GitHub commands. Having org membership is a sign that you're an active, engaged contributor who intends to contributing in more structured way within the community. You're not just picking up single issues or asking a one-off question. You probably developed expertise in a certain area of the project. You might be contributing to one or more sub-projects or 6 in a consistent and measurable way. So you'll be ready to become a Kubernetes org member when the contributors you work with regularly are familiar with your work and will vouch for you as a sponsor on your request for a membership. Beyond becoming an org member, there are increasing levels of trust, ownership, and responsibility that you could choose to pursue. Once you've been engaged in an area for a while, you might have enough knowledge to help review contributions or pull requests from other contributors. Then you're a reviewer. Eventually, you might be trusted enough to have the final say whenever some code is merged or a contribution is accepted and displayed on something like the Kubernetes IO website. Then you would basically move up to be an approver. If you're becoming a strong expert in a specific area who's highly trusted and regarded for your expertise, you also may take on new responsibilities. You might become the person others come to with questions, and you might lead triaging sessions or other work for that area. At that point, you might be a sub-project owner. If you are an expert who starts leading things in that area, you might also take responsibilities for various resources within that area, how they relate to other parts of the project, for example. You might take on the responsibility of the README file, defining a whole sub-project, which is where people would go to learn about it. And you might become the contact person who triages requests from other parts of the project. At that point, you might become the sub-project lead. If you are leading a whole sub-project, that's a considerable chunk of work within a SIG, you're probably interacting and collaborating with leads of other sub-projects, and you're probably developing a pretty strong sense of mission objectives and ongoing work of the SIG as a whole. At that point, you might become a chair or tech lead for the entire special interest group. If you remember our community structure diagram from earlier, you might wonder if becoming a member of the steering committee would also be the next step. But steering is an elected position. You can actually run for steering at any point past org membership. But you'll be more likely to being elected the better other contributors know your work. This letter might seem like 1-2 path in contribution, but I want to remind you that there's no single path for your contributor journey. Most contributors end up contributing in multiple areas of the project. Some people even develop ownership in different SIGs at the same time. Just because you're learning and contributing in one SIG doesn't mean that you can't check out another SIG. Remember, most contributors are at least partially volunteers. Almost every contributing is doing is because they love it. So look around, find what you love, and then do this. So you now know the basics of how the community is structured, how you might fit into it. As we have established, you might already have be a non-member contributor. But if you want to do more, contribute, let's see where you can basically start. The fastest way to make yourself useful will be to find a SIG that suits your interest and just start getting involved being there. That might not mean immediately picking up an issue and writing code. Often getting involved means attending meetings, reading notes and existing issues, and just generally starting to get a feel for what the group does. The fastest way to learn is also to make yourself useful will be to find a SIG that suits your interest and just getting started to be involved there. That might not mean immediately picking up an issue and writing code. Often getting involved means attending meetings, reading notes, and existing issues. Yeah. So let's explore how you can learn about a SIG or how you can find groups that are relevant for your interest. So where can you start learning? First, check out Kubernetes/community in GitHub. In this repo, you can find folders containing information about each SIG and working group. When you click on the SIG folder in the community repo, it will show you that folder's README at the top of this file. You will find a brief summary of the SIG's focus area and likely a link to their more detailed team charter. This will give you a broad and high-level idea of what the SIG does. Below the summary of the group, you'll find information about when the group meets. Attending those meetings is often a great way to learn more about this group and what they are currently working on and how they do their work. Attending meetings is a great way to start getting known to the group of people you're interested in and working in. You will also find information about the leadership. Most SIGs have both the concept of chairs and technical leads. These leaders are at the same level of trust and responsibility, but likely own different types of tasks for the supporting SIGs. Chairs tend to do more project management type of work, while tech leads tend to do more architectural leadership, like managing repos, certain kinds of technical discussion and processes. Each SIG defines what these roles mean to them, and each leader will be a little bit different. You will also find contact information for the SIG. Most SIGs in the Kubernetes do a lot of asynchronous communications in their channel within the Kubernetes Slack, which you can join by visiting slack.kds.io. Each SIG also has a mailing list. Important announcements for all contributors to a SIG will go out to the mailing list. The mailing list will also invite all, send you all of the invites to all of the SIG meetings via Google Calendar. You'll also find information about where to find issues, PRs related to the SIG, and other informations like GitHub Teams that are part of the SIG. Also, every contributor should join Kubernetes Dev Google group, which is also known as KDev. This mailing list is the primary communication channel for important contributor information. Checking out each SIG folder will show you lots of information about specific SIGs. But what if you want to find information about all of the SIG meetings? The community maintains a contributor website at kds.dev. And within kds.dev, we have a page that with all of the information about the community meetings, where you can basically see every single meeting. Go to kds.dev/calendar to see a list of all of the meetings. Clicking on one will bring up a new window for you to add the meeting to your own calendar. This can be a great way to get a sense of which group meets at which time and that make work for you. Now you know the community, how the community structures and where you could fit in, and how to start learning more. You might also want to know if there's any active work that you can pick up to become part. So we reach out basically to SIG leads each month to ask them for any current opportunities. And on this slide, we can basically see evergreen opportunities. Evergreen opportunities are opportunities that are always available. So for most of the SIGs, there's always the job of taking notes in a meeting. So you don't have to have any requirements. And you basically also see the notes doc listed in the meeting invite usually, and we always appreciate people that are taking notes for those meetings. For SIG Contrib X, we have the SIG Spotlight block, which is part of the comms sub-project. There you basically go ahead and interview people and ask them about how their SIG is run, what their SIG does, and then you will basically write a blog post about this, and this will be published on Kubernetes.io. So for the Kubernetes Contributors Summit, we usually have a comms team and a team for the program committee. There, the requirement is that you already have an org membership. For SIG docs, they have special program where anyone can review PRs and this is called the PR Wrangler Shadow Program. They also have a new contributor meet and greet, which is specific for docs, and this takes place at first Tuesday of the month at 10:30 UTC, and you can find more info on it on k-community/sigdocs. Evergreen opportunities are great because they represent work that always needs to be done, and which is likely well defined. But a lot of work is one-off work, an issue that needs fixing, or work on a new feature. Many of these types of tasks require certain skills to complete. You might see an open request that requires a skill that you want to develop and think you should pick up as a task to learn. But be wary of this for doing this. If tasks that were easy, someone of the SIG would probably already have done it. Many requests with skill requirements are open because no one in the community currently has the skills, so they can't teach them. Or they may be open because people who do have those skills are too busy and can't pick up more. But if you're coming to the Kubernetes community with existing skills like certain programming languages or specific technical skills like Linux networking or expertise in a certain cloud provider, these tasks could be great opportunity to contribute to our community. On this slide, we basically have the current calls for help to look for people who can help us on those specific tasks with a certain set of skills already present. So for ContribX, we are looking for someone who can help maintaining k8s.dev. Skills that we require is the knowledge of Hugo Doxy. We also require mentoring programs. We also need help for the mentoring program to help to set up and execute group mentoring programs. So we request there people that have skills for planning and organization and communication to keep track of the various mentoring programs. Some of them are currently started. We also looking for help to help with Electo. Electo is our homegrown software that runs elections for the community. There we're looking for people with Python and Flask skills. For SIG ATCD, there's a special opportunity now. There's a mentorship cohort where you can apply to be a mentee. However, we require you being a Go programmer or Kubernetes contributor or experienced etcd user or experienced documentation writer. And there's a form where you can register, and the deadline is going to be set for March the 15th. For SIGDocs, we require people who can review proposed blog PRs. The requirement would be familiarity with the style guide, content guide, and submitting a blog page, and also the reviewing PR guide. We also looking for people that help with localization. There the requirement is that you need to speak English, and you also need to be able to, or you also need to speak another language, obviously. SIG testing is looking for help with PROW. I think this has been solved. And we're looking for people that can help with conformance testing, like hydrophone feedback. So we're basically looking for feedback and help enabling adoption of new conformance testing tools for end users. SIG Arch is generally looking for folks. It's basically the willingness to dive in and learn about our architecture program and give more support there. For SIG networking, we are looking for folks that help building up the Nginx Gateway API implementation from scratch, and also in general help working in this. And we also looking for API reviewers and that are long-standing folks within SIG network. For SIG release, we are looking for release automation help, so coding and scripting, and also willingness to develop deep familiarity with the release process over time. And for SIG security, we are looking for people that understand CVEs and can help with CVEs and security concepts. Are there any questions so far?
No, all good. Thanks.
All right, then let's jump into the common contributor pitfalls. So common contributor pitfalls are basically the good first issue trap. So everyone or a lot of folks went into this. So basically, I want to contribute. I look for a good first issue, and yeah. So let's basically, yeah, look how we do this. So I mentioned earlier, the Kubernetes community uses tools like Prow to help us manage issues. Are you familiar with Prow? Probably not and not with our bot, but that's fine. Maybe you just start writing code. Those reviewers, approvers, and only owners will be mentioned will appear to make sure the issue has the right labels and stuff on it. Once you've written your code, you also need to get their attention to review or PR. Remember, there's a lot of more contributors than there are reviewers. And when you make a PR, reviewers and approvers will be automatically assigned. But what if there's an issue in your code? You might need to go back and forth with the reviewers on GitHub. Are you comfortable using comments and pull requests to see your work being completed? Most first good issues that get picked up by new non-member contributors never make it to completion. The code never gets checked in. And then the community has all these slated issues and PR sitting around for work we really need to get done. But the person got lost and ended up abandoning their contribution halfway. Then those reviewers and approvers and owners have to go through the process of triaging the issue, opening it again, or whatever, and else we need to fix it. You can avoid getting stuck in this trap by joining a SIG and sticking with it. When you know the people you're working with and the goals you're working towards, you can be a valuable part of not just doing the work, but making sure the work gets done. So that's usually the biggest tip, is to join the meetings and get engaged with the people. This was a lot of information, and this was just the orientation meeting. When you join your first SIG meeting, you're probably going to be overwhelmed. A lot of SIG meetings exist for active working sessions. So they are basically like, it's a collaborative work session, and it's a lot of things where they talk about in progress work and so on. That means that that doesn't mean that you shouldn't join as a new contributor, but you will learn faster by joining these meetings and watching the process in action. But it might also mean that you feel left out and lost in your first times. Don't be afraid to ask questions by speaking up, asking in a chat, or asking the SIG or sub projects Slack later. The Kubernetes community is a big, diverse place. It's diverse in terms of people, skills, technologies, and so much more. It might take you a while to find a place that clicks with you. There might be particular SIG or sub-project where you find more opportunities to build the skills or connections that are most important for you. Don't forget that you can move around and explore other groups within the project. Most contributors ending up contributing in multiple areas, and many find a particular area that they dive deep into. No two contributors have the same journey, so you'll need to explore and find the best places for yourself. Regardless of which areas you explore, we need your help, and we are glad that you are here. All right. We've covered a lot today. Getting started in the Kubernetes community means learning a lot of basic tools, processes, structures, and more. So there's a list of resources that where you can find more information, and you can also always come back to refer to this in a later stage. These were the basics of the Kubernetes community and how you can grow as a contributor. Now, I'm happy to take any open questions of what you want to learn to be a contributor. Is there any question?
Yeah, thanks a lot for this presentation. I love it. This is my first time joining this one. My quick question is like this disproportion with the contributors and the reviewers. What do
Yeah.
you think it's the? I mean, I understand about this trap of picking up issue and then disappearing, maybe. But what are the other things you see that kind of like prevents people to move from members to reviewers?
Most of the stuff, this is a lot of stuff is also trust level. So you need to stick around for some time, right, to get to this point. And a lot of folks also don't feel comfortable to take over the reviewer or even the approver part for the fear of I break things, right? So because a lot you need to see the Kubernetes is the second largest open source project in the world, and people fear that if they make a mistake in the review or make a mistake in the when they approve it, that they break other people, right? So that's the critical part of this.
Interesting.
And yeah, this is always something that prevents people. And the other problem is especially when it comes to certain areas of the project. You need usually you need a big understanding of not only the work of the specific SIG, but also of the project itself to be able to review certain pull requests, because those might affect other areas of the project from an architecture point of view.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for explaining. But do we also, so it's not like a one people review, right? So
No,
probably we expect some multiple eyes before merging, if I understand correctly.
it's basically there's a discussion. People basically a lot of people can review stuff. So I mean, you can also review or comment on a PR, although you're not a reviewer, right? So if you see something that is wrong in the PR or that might need to be changed, this can also be done by other folks, right? You don't need to be a reviewer on the status to make those comments. The reviewer more or less is then only the how to say it, the last line that makes it to then put the approve label on it or the LGTM label on it. But everyone can basically go in and work on this. So, for example, The last issue I worked on was a discussion regarding social media channels in on the Kubernetes website, and there were in the PR there were like 7 people reviewing it, although and discussing it, although not all of them are reviewers in the specific field.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. No worries. Any other question? If not, my biggest personal advice would be go to Kubernetes GitHub /GitHub/Kubernetes /community, read through the SIG charters, find your SIG that you're most interested, start joining the meetings, hear what people are working on, and then get some issues that you can work on and start working in there. That's the easiest and most approachable way to be part of the Kubernetes project.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
so
I-
nice.
yeah,
I think this HCD mentee program sounds really cool. I mean,
yeah.
my background is also like a database. I worked in like open source. I
Mhm.
haven't contributed to Kubernetes ecosystem per se, but I was a maintainer of Grafana Loki, the log database,
Okay.
past 4 years,
I
and then
I
is that?
think
Sorry,
this.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think that you're actually for this you are a good candidate for this mentee program, because we are looking for people that are that have experience. So this is not like a junior mentee
Mhm.
program. This is really like for experienced people to get into this. I will drop the link to the form here in the chat so that you
Okay,
can
perfect.
basically
Thank you.
directly jump into it.
Nice.
Uh, and this is a rare occasion, right? So
Yeah.
we often don't have mentee programs, because the problem
Mm.
is that you need to have mentors
Yeah,
to
exactly.
and yeah, this is a rare occasion where we actually have mentors in this, and because we want to grow some folks there. That's also why I would say the requirements are a little bit higher.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, I mean, that's why it caught my attention. I saw this
Yeah,
link in the channel also, I think a
yeah,
few weeks ago. Yeah, I'm also working in a company which is currently a database, like also open source,
yeah,
which deals with a lot of consensus raft and those kind of things. So that's
yeah,
why PD caught my attention. So I'm happy to help, and then yeah, I will fill the form and see how
yeah.
it goes. Thanks a lot.
And you can also basically jump into the ATCD meeting, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
just talk to the people. You can find it on kns.dev/calendar. There
Calendar.
are all the meetings are listed.
Perfect.
The only sad downside is, especially for APAC time zone people or EU time zone people, is that some SIGs have
Hmm.
already split meetings,
Yeah.
where you have like an APAC friendly and an American friendly meeting, but we still have a lot of SIGs that only have one meeting, and this is in not so friendly times for us. Let's put it this way. I mean, as
Yeah,
European, it's still better, but when you're more in the APAC area, it's sometimes a little bit hard.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I think I live in Netherlands, so I think a
Ah,
lot of
okay,
Europeans
that's
are.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think my latest meeting that I have is currently SIGCADE's Infra, which is 10 p.m. Central European time.
Okay. I mean, yeah, after dinner.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of meetings are usually in our evenings. So we have a lot of meetings in like I would say starting 5 p.m. ish, so that it's like 8 a.m. for the and now I'm mixing up coasts. West Coast, yeah, West Coast, US. Um,
Mm,
so 5 p.m., 6 p.m. That's usually where you can see like all of this blocks. I can actually look. SIG etcd meeting.
Yeah. I think
It's Thursdays at 11 Pacific. 11 Pacific is
so. February
8 p.m. 8 p.m.
20. Okay, I'm also looking at this one. But you mean the Feb 20, the coming Thursday, or?
They have a weekly meeting.
Oh, okay. So every Thursday, basically.
Every no, sorry, bi-weekly. Bi-weekly. It's bi-weekly, so it's every second Thursday.
Okay. I don't see in this Thursday, so probably the next Thursday one, I guess.
Let's see, kls.dev
Oh,
/ calendar, and sick Wednesday, Thursday, next week. I want to have a week list.
yeah, I don't see it on also on the Feb 27th.
Oh, the problem is that this might not be in the. You're
Calendar.
right. In our calendar, because the problem that we have is, or SIG etcd was its own project
Yeah, yeah.
until I think 2 years ago,
Mm,
and I think not everything still is moved. However, I will take this with me.
yeah, thank you. I think the README file I see they have three meetings. One is for the general regular meeting and the test meeting and triage meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the next
Community
one.
meeting was on the 6th of February. So it was. So this Thursday. It's this Thursday.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to attend that one and
Yeah.
see. Yeah, thanks for the more info, Mario. Appreciate it.
No worries. Then I wish you a pleasant Tuesday
Yeah, you too.
and see
Thanks.
you around. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take care.